In the second reading, go to the second reading just for a little bit and talk about that. One of the things about the book of Hebrews is that it contrasts the giving of the law on Mount Sinai. On Mount Sinai, the Lord appears with glory. The people consecrate themselves for 3 days. The Lord has this power and thunder and lightning and clouds, and the people are like, Moses, you go up and talk to him. We don't want to talk to him lest we die. So it gives that idea that the people really were not prepared. They were living in Egypt for 400 years and been in a place of idolatry, and it really showed. So what happens is to contrast that with the Mount Zion. You've approached Mount Zion, the city of the living God, the heavenly Jerusalem, countless angels in festive gathering, the assembly of the firstborn enrolled in heaven, and God, the judge of all, and the spirits of those made perfect in Jesus, the mediator of the new covenant. So it contrasts those two. In the gospel, what you have is an idea that the people are the Pharisees. He's there at the home of the Pharisees. They're there on the Sabbath. The Lord Jesus had, before this, had cured on the Sabbath. So they're looking at him intently. And so, but the one thing that they didn't realize, as Father Francis Martin, who was a priest of DC before his passing, he said that they didn't realize that that Jesus was looking at them intently. But he goes and he sees the people jockeying for position of honor, and says to take the lowest place. But the one thing about humility is that humility can kind of be that insipid, kind of false humility. Oh, I don't have gifts and talents. Oh, I'm, oh, this, oh, that, woe is me, all that kind of stuff. That's kind of that false humility that's insipid. And, it's really just, there to have people to pat them on the back. Oh, no, Joe, or oh, no, Nancy, you're great, all this kind of stuff. That's that false humility. But then there's also that jockeying for position that you see, whether in any organization. You always have the people who try to, get ahead and looking to get ahead and looking to, not to get the work done, but looking to get ahead and what can they do and how can they position themselves properly in this particular assignment or that assignment. So we really see Jesus saying, to take that position of, of realization of who you are, the realization, that it's by God's grace and God's glory that we are the people who we are. So he has that idea of humility. The other is that idea that when you have a meal, a banquet, to invite the poor, the lame, the blind, and blessed will you be because of their inability to repay you. In a lot of the Middle Eastern circumstances, it's inviting people and then trying to get an invitation from them. So try to go a little bit above you and get that person, then they'll invite you. And so Jesus is saying basically don't do that, but invite those who have that inability to repay. One of the interesting things, when I was at Immaculate Heart of Mary, there was a people who were there who did a luncheon for Thanksgiving. And it was very interesting. It's, Immaculate Heart of Mary in Lexington Park. Lexington Park's kind of a town, kind of a feel to it, even though it has a base, even though it's kind of, certainly growing and certainly, very spread out. But it has that kind of that town feel to it, so that there are community bulletin boards and stuff like that that you can post to. And what they would do is that there would be people there to cook, who are willing to do that, willing to cook, willing to spend their time. And it certainly was a fair amount of time. But you would get an interesting mix of people. You would get people who were, maybe let's say less fortunate. You would get those who were lonely because their husband or wife had passed and their children are in a different state and couldn't come for Thanksgiving. So you would get those who would come. You would get your regular church people who would come. So it was a very interesting mix of people, and it was very interesting. I really enjoyed it. Having to kind of mix and talk to people who you don't necessarily always see, especially in the churches. And one of the problems with society today is that there really isn't that mixing. There's kind of, with the advent of the suburbs, there's kind of this stratification of, the poor, the wealthy, the super wealthy, and all these, and they don't mix a lot. In fact, one of the interesting things that's said in this one search that I did online is that they said that the place where people tend to mix of different socioeconomic status is either fast food or fast casual places. So like those restaurants that are fast casual or fast food places are the places that people of different strata tend to meet and congregate. So I thought that was interesting because we really, unfortunately, to our detriment, don't necessarily have it as much in the church, that we tend to be in a particular area and people come from that area. So you really don't have a lot of people from different socioeconomic backgrounds coming together, which is unfortunate. But I think one thing we could certainly try to do and try to do better job is that idea of inviting those and everyone, as Jesus did invite everyone. So trying to invite everyone to come and to receive God's blessing. So those are the things that we really kind of think about in this particular gospel. We think about humility, the Lord Jesus, who humbled himself, taking on our humanity. So we need to humble ourselves. But then also that idea of be willing to invite those who maybe you wouldn't think about necessarily inviting, but really thinking about the idea that in heaven there are all those thoughts of, human things that we put, great importance on are going to be as nothing. And so really want to live here on earth as we would have our life in heaven. Thanks. God bless.